recommending tightening up the window that you eat in. Now that is a real window, whereas the anabolic window is not a real thing. And a lot of these people did like P90X or some other program where they believed that you exercise, and then if you eat something right after you exercise, it like becomes muscle. And so we're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to answer some questions that are more specific towards this, and we can kind of go outside of the scope of that afterward. But I really want to stay focused on meal timing. It's definitely a theme of what we have in the X3 programming for nutrition. Also keep in mind, the reason I designed that program the way I did was to keep it really user-friendly. Like 90% of the people who look at that, they go, okay, I can probably take sugar out of my diet, or okay, I can stop drinking Coca-Cola. Like it's not gonna kill me to like not have Coca-Cola anymore. So there's different levels of aggression when it comes to choosing your nutrition program. So for example, when it comes to meal timing, which is what we're talking about today, you can have one meal a day and get all your nutrition rammed into that one meal. That's kind of hard. You're eating a lot in a very short period of time. So especially if you're trying to gain muscle. So when you do that sort of thing, that makes for a rough 24-hour period. Especially if you're not ketogenic, if you're not fat adapted, that's a miserable day. If you go 24 hours with no food. Now, if you are fat adapted, it's a pretty easy day. So, but again, these are different levels of aggression, and I will be doing more in the next probably 4 to 6 months on nutrition, because I realize there is so much crap information out there, and I hesitate to even call it nutritional advice, because that denotes some stuff, some implication about health. However, science can't even really decide if like eating meat will kill you or if it'll make you like super fantastic and live for longer, or if it doesn't matter. So there's absolutely conflicting evidence. So I almost say to somebody when they say, well, let me tell you about my health observations on nutrition. I go, I'm going to stop you right there, because health and nutrition, like, you can't really give a health recommendation based on a lot of the nutrition information that's out there, because there's so much conflicting, there's so much bias, and there are companies that make products out of processed, usually simple carbohydrates, and they're hell-bent on proving that those things are healthy. And that's where most of the nutrition research funding comes from. So you got to keep all that stuff in mind. Now, back to the main topic, which is the anabolic window. You will walk into just about any gym, and aside from, the smell of sweat and mildew, you will probably notice, the second thing you notice, other than the smell, is the fact that there's a lot of guys walking around looking like they're holding like a baby bottle with like a nipple on top of it, and it's like some sort of mixing cup for some sort of protein drink, because they got to get their nutrition right in that anabolic window. And what's so funny about that is since 2013, a couple chaps I've met published a literature review. They looked at 85 different studies, nutrient timing, I wrote 85 there to remind myself to mention there were 85 different studies considered in this. Is there a post-exercise anabolic window? And these are two guys, two PhDs, Alan Aragon and Brad Schofield. think I met them at the American College of Sports Medicine annual congress. So they considered all of these different papers, and they looked at different papers who looked at having a high carbohydrate meal after your workout versus no meal after your workout, a high protein meal after your workout, really refined sports nutrition drinks right after your workout, and then comparing that to control groups who basically just had the same kind of nutrition they'd always have, or even fasted and then ate towards the end of the day. So guess what happened? Nothing. Everybody pretty much grew the same amount of muscle, no matter what they did. Because now, what they don't really have a lot of data on is muscle gains with multi-day fasting. And I think the reason there's not enough literature on that is because people who are typically doing multi-day fasting are either going after cancer or they're going after really, really aggressive body fat loss. So those are kind of conflicting goals. It's not like somebody who's morbidly obese is like, well, I don't want to lose my pectoral mass. No, they need to lose like a lot of fat mass because it's contributing to their short life potentially. So just not a lot of data on that, though there are a couple indicators that show that you can definitely protect muscle with proper engagement, and we've talked about through stabilization firing and loading of the body. So you can go multi-day fast without losing any mass at all, but you can also, doesn't matter when you have your next meal after you work out. So if you want to exercise in the morning and then you're doing the 1 meal a day thing, and then your 1 meal is at like 8 o'clock at night, you're gonna grow. You're doing most of your growth while you're sleeping anyway. So as long as you keep engaging in muscle, even if it's lightly, it's like your body's really not in the phase that protein synthesis is going hard. And for the most part, the protein synthesis that needs to be going during the day is happening. And of course, ATP, glycogen, and creatine phosphate get replaced on a need basis, almost no matter what's there. Even if you have 0 calories available to metabolize, that's when you immediately go into a ketogenic state and you start using ketones and gluconeogenesis to produce the glucose that's required, the glucose and insulin combination, which then penetrate into the muscle cell and become those fuels that need to be replaced. So it's going to happen no matter what. And that means you're losing body fat while that's going on, and you're refueling the muscle, no problem. And anything where you say like, oh, I'm hypoglycemic, or my hands get shaky, or I don't feel good if I skip those meals, and which is why I think I need nutrition, it's because your insulin sensitivity is awful, and you're just totally sugar adapted, and that's not going to help you going long term. Another thing, which I know will be one of the first questions that we get, so I'll just head that off right now, is, so does that mean I need to be fat adapted? No, but if you really want to focus on rapid fat loss, that just means that your only option, if you're not fat adapted, is caloric restriction, so just eating smaller meals maybe throughout the day. I think that's a tougher road to go. It works. Like carbohydrates, we're starting to simplify things, like carbohydrates make you fat, and instead of calories don't make you fat. Well, that's also too simple. Both are a little bit too simple. Insulin is one of the most, you should be afraid of insulin. Insulin is one of the most powerful hormones in the body. However, it's only powerful when you have a very tiny amount of it. When you have a lot of it, what was powerful becomes basically toxic. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another one of my rants is, which I won't go on now, is like there's no such thing as a bad hormone. Cortisol exists for a reason, insulin exists for a reason, and they're powerful if you trigger them in the proper way.